everybody, it's Jess, your go-to Street Fighter bestie, and we're here. Episode 1 is dropped, and we have the uncut battles. Thank God we have these, because the amount of repeats that happen on an Mnet broadcast are just too much for me. So I'm really excited to dive in. I have no idea any of the results of these battles, and so this is going to be really fun to kind of see. And I already know that there's a chance there's going to be some calls made in the show that are just not practical or ideal. I'll be able to uncover that whenever I actually watch the episode later today, which is available on Patreon for you to enjoy. Can't wait to dive in. Let's go. First up is Honey J versus Marley. We have the same vantage point as the judges, which I think is great. These drones, though. Okay. This track is going to be more advantageous to Marley. She choreographs to this style very often. Oh. That's right. Okay, they get to pick their own tracks. About to say, Honey J's track was a vibe for Marley. She's attacking and phrasing very well. Thumbs down with my people. She was tapping on the wordplay for that. Ooh. Yeah, okay, so my vote would go to Marley for this. So we're just going to actually do overviews for these. A lot of times with battles, I normally don't go back as much anymore, but for the Fighter franchise, we're going to give it some love. Let's go back and talk about it. So Honey J goes first. I do believe they get to say, okay, here's the type of tracks that I want to dance to, or here's the style of track that I like, and then they play something along those lines, was what I'm assuming. This track works well. I mean, I would say Honey J, she did well in the sense of some of her choices were very nice. Looking at how she's phrasing through it, though, she's using, when she's choosing to go extremity based, we're not actually engaging a groove, we're isolating it and repeating. So we're already starting to count already. Now, some people may be like, oh, Marley's not really paying attention to her. You don't have to pay attention to your opponent. A lot of times, it depends. It's just kind of advised to ignore your opponent and just be in your own headspace. Don't let them affect you, positively or negatively, right? So that's why for me, I see her engaging, but not really, right? So she's ended up doing Running Man's. Her sequences are bleeding over a little bit. The split through, but it wasn't the cleanest in terms of the transition. If she finished it out and then smoothly transitioned, it would have been more readable. But it did feel like she stopped herself and then fell over and then rotated out of it, right? The punch up is fine. The roll out of it. When she's sitting in something and then she doubles it to the other side. It's the phrasing and sequences, all that there. Notice she low-key did a little answer saw what Honey J did, which is, hold on, she went a Running Man. So she actually did more of a heel, but Marley did a Running Man into a tone wop twist. And what Honey J did is something that felt pretty like hybrid to that. And I think that's kind of the thing in all of this, is that with open style, which is what this is, I come from the position on having a strong foundation in a discipline, in a style, is always going to work better for you long run in the freestyle circuit. Because if you're doing open style, go off of the type of track it is. This type of track's more of a new school hip hop sound. Rock and bounce are still vital if you're going to justify the sound through that type of movement quality, right? All of the things that we're seeing here, this is street woman fighter, so street dance needs to be the priority in everything that we see, right? So when it comes to these two, Marley has a stronger hip-hop background, which gives her an advantage, and you saw that. However, you do, like, hybrids are fine, which is what we're seeing from Honey J, but it's about readability and digestibility of those choices. And if you have somebody with a strong foundation, be able to enhance with complexity, and they're able to showcase different parts of wordplay and musicality in those contexts, which is something that we dived into with Marley at Thesis with my battle compilation. Her opponent one-upped her sweet face every time, but she held her own because of how she chose to phrase on the track, right? So all that to say, Honey J did fine, but she's making muddled decisions and it's not clear or readable, which can work against you in these types of spaces. However, as Street Woman Fighter, and anything goes. Your judges are not battle judges. None of them are. They come from a choreography background. JYP comes from an entertainment dance background. Mike, I mean, would probably have the closest to freestyling, but he does primarily choreography nowadays. Same with Aaliyah. So that's why, for me, if we're going to have bad calls, it's not going to surprise me at all because of that. And also, what I've noticed too is it does feel like we are prioritizing reactions. There's a chance, high chance, we'll have to look at interviews for clarification of this, of course, of is Mike, Mike and Aaliyah and JYP, they're told, hey, we want you to really be reaction-based. Because if you are a judge, that really shouldn't be something that, like, I was trained not to react at all whenever I'm looking at stuff. And you see that when I look at Mega Cruise or choreography with the ranking abilities, right? I normally react after. But for battles, it's a little different for me. But my point, though, is if you are being called to react out of what you see, can that influence the kind of voting that you would give? Maybe. I know for me, I try to find the middle ground in that because if you're reacting and you're not thinking, okay, I have to pick a winner, here's my criteria and I'm focusing on that and who did it better, because it is a direct comparison here. It's not a rank up, right? That's where things can get a little dicey too. So it doesn't surprise me if we're gonna have bad calls. If Honey J takes this in the show, would it surprise me? I feel like there's gonna be worse calls made. If I'm honest, I don't think this is like a super, this is a clear winner, but it's not like so clear it would be disrespectful. Like so disrespectful to the style because we just completely chose to ignore street dance entirely. Does that make sense? I feel like we're gonna encounter that. It would be the same, Ibuki and Lip J are their own little entity here. Here, it feels the difference between both are choreographers, but you could tell who's done freestyling more. Like who's actually training that battle kit. Marley has. So the set is because readability, sequences, all of the phrasing is muddled, messy. Yeah, all that there. She walks away. She was attacking offense. Here we go. People are responding to the track. She's getting hype. USA is hyping her up. Confidence is key. Your skills are how you spend it. Come on now. Setting it up. Boom. So she goes boom, weep, weep. So she hits it up. When you hear it drop out, she recognizes that through absence of movement, but through accent points taken through it. Her exploration is really interesting because it's very clear. It's so subtle but clear. She taps it through. She interacts with her opponent. Her opponent doesn't have to be there, but she's there. Why is she choosing to be all up in Marley's cup of tea? That's her choice there. You don't necessarily have to. Marley don't even have to touch her to make her point. She's sitting here. Honestly, you remember with Bada and Reddy where she brushed over Reddy? Marley literally she just headbanged in between the spaces of Honey J. It's pretty interesting. I really appreciate how she chose to attack without touching. That was really interesting and pretty readable from our vantage point. The turnaround, she rotates it through. So song advantage here. She knocks it through and then have that whoa. Really like how her arm swings out of it. The little V-step out of it pulls that little bird, but she didn't go on bird. She's implementing a bird, but going on the so really diving into other elements of the track and allowing us the privilege of hearing these parts that we wouldn't normally hear if we're just listening to the track regularly. Honey J dived more on the predictable elements of the track, which is fine. And she catered more in that pocket 2, which would be, well, no, I'm going to say pocket 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, but then Marley, she's diving into multiple pockets, pocket 1, 2, 3, 4, outside a pocket. If you're like, Jess, what are pockets? Timings, different timings. Where you would have pocket 1 would be, if you're looking at a time signature in a 4/4, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pocket 1 is just on the 1. Pocket 2 would be 1 and 3. Pocket 3 would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then pocket 4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, but double time, so faster. So just that alone, learning how, I'm just posture on the funniest part. It's just learning how to implement creative choices and originality across different timings. And then you have something called outside the pocket, which is where a lot of musicality can derive from there as well. So who has more musicality? I think Marley is showing it here through timing, also through her wordplay choices. That's the advantage of being a native English speaker, being a part of a culture where this type of track is going to be something that you're very familiarized with implicitly. And the turn out of it, that little brush, and then she brushes Honey J's feet. Honey J could have avoided a lot of this if she wasn't standing right there. So she's low-key kind of putting herself in the line of fire, and Marley is shooting. Like, I think part of it is she really could have avoided a lot of this. The point out of it, she said, thumbs down. And then right here, listen to what the words are. I think he said, those my people. She goes to her people. She didn't have to do too much. Her phrasing was really well done on this. She said, like, interesting. So, yeah. I would say that would be pretty clear winner to me would be Marley, because the components, I'll put it this way, the components that I'm going to be looking at are going to be musicality, originality, difficulty, complexity, and those can be different depending on the skills and things you do. The kind of, well, musicality would be how you would integrate yourself within the track. Originality is going to be a huge component in all this, and it's really hard to do on a stage like this if you haven't had experience being on a stage like this. A song choice, of course, can be an influence of what kind of style I'm going to be looking at, or how somebody chooses to justify their movement. What style are they using to help prove that? This is Street Woman Fighter. Yes, you can dive into other elements, you know, like contemporary, ballet, whatever. That's stage fighter energy, though, respectfully. And you can integrate some of those elements here, but the foundation baseline needs to be street dance. And that's what we're going to be looking at all of these with a fine-tooth comb. Okay. Second here, Aaliyah versus Ike. Aaliyah was like my little Audrey girl, wasn't she? So I guess when they hear their song, they know it's them. Okay? That was there, yeah. I know Ruthie enjoyed that. Man. Her phrasing's starting to get muddled. She had some nice moments, but it's muddled. This song. Okay. Guys, we need to look at is, okay, cool. Yeah, I was like, are we doing more? Okay. When you watch other people on the sides, their faces, oh my God. Okay. Who would I vote for this? We're gonna actually analyze this. I don't next to it. This is not a clean, I wouldn't put this as a clean win, because both had similar issues with it. Now, either of them, I think Honey J because, like, you know, I put Marley Marley beat Honey J. If Honey J was against either of them, I could see Honey J win based on her isolated round. So just even though somebody loses a particular round in a battle, doesn't inherently mean that theirs is worse off than the winner of another round. This one had the same issues where it's readability and lack of cohesion between what your choice is. So if you're looking here with Aaliyah, that little persuasion, she's going a very legato, torso, smooth choice, which is fun. Her setup is nice. The switch off is cool. The hops are fine. Little taps out of it. Readability, pretty decent so far. It's whenever she starts traveling, she allows the speed changes, those choices, usage of the floor is nice, and then she travels it through. And it goes da na na na. This part da 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 da. So using a repeated move like this with a little bit of a booty pop, come on, like one of those, like a little pop off situation like this, that worked well because of how we were hearing Rihanna's tone, right? Bop, 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 bop. So she was polyrhythmic on it. So she's hitting the bump, 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 and then she's punching on the basses. I would call that a successful attack, right? That was cool. We actually touched. That's always, it just depends on context sometimes. In whacking, you see people touch, but it's not like so combative like a lot of things being made here, right? Yeah, so this right here, so you have Ike like interacting, but it's you know, it's more of a Aaliyah is living her best life, moving around, vibing out. Now that Ike does inherently kind of block the judges from seeing what's going on, right? She sings lower. And the turnout of it, nothing crazy. She ends up rotating. It's that right there. And it feels like we made a choice, and then we're now having to revert back to going to that center just to kind of recollect. So the pools, she's shifting her modes or her choices and how she's showcasing her texture or showcasing how she's creating these interruptions. I mean, are we going full taking or strobing? I'm not going to give her that, but I'll definitely say that we're integrating something similar there. I mean, I can at least recognize that when the tone is shifting or when the track is shifting, she is reflecting that, which can put her a leg up. And the melt over that melt. Some of those things, I mean, she bled through it. So when it comes to readability, she has a one-up on Ike for her choices. Now, do I think that was a little bit repetitive? She ended up doing that about, this is the second time we're seeing it. So there, she's finished. The walk away. Ike. So she put the crown on. Now, is the crown the right move for AG Squad? Technically, the crown needs to be towards Royal, but we do have former Royal on there, so I understand that sentiment. So she goes knock, knock, knock. Now, all of this here, I can see her trying to dive into more isolations, press-ins, things that you would see in popping or you'd see in Boogaloo, electric Boogaloo. But the downside is it's not readable in the sense where she cuts off her movement, she comes up her travel across. I'm not going to give extra credit for people doing one style over another, right? We look at the style you're choosing to bring, right? Popping is not going to get special privileges here over an Afro perspective. Afro is not going to get special privileges over hip hop. If it's a dance style that falls under the umbrella of street dance, then you got to look at beginner, intermediate, and advanced qualities within them through vocabulary, creativity, your format, how you phrase it, all of those things. How eloquently can you speak in that language of movement? Here, Ike has a lot of broken sentences being structured on this, right? Where her travel across with her glide, it feels like she's rushing to do a lot of information in a very short go, right? So she takes this crown, she tosses it down, and she scuffs it away. So that was readable at least, but even here, we're hitting predictable elements of our music, the turn out of it. She ends up gliding to the other side. We're going to count that number 2. That little, oh my lord, she does a little bounce hinge to reset. So it does feel like we did end up resetting a couple times on both sides. I'd say Aaliyah hit it a little bit better. Rotating it around, arms through, and then we press it forward, we grab, rotation, a little fixed point, nothing crazy there. She did a little toss away. And then she says, oh, And then she ended up doing a little guada guada. If you're going to, if you're going to make fun or use a gimmick like that towards your opponent. You have to own it. And it does feel like we're doing a couple moves here and there that are like dissing, but you're not really dissing because she's not head above heels above Aaliyah for those disses to land as effectively as I feel like she would want, right? So that's the downside in this. With battles, here's the thing. This is battles we're talking about. Most people in this room are going to be operating at a disadvantage in this space. Now, if it's a choreography matchup, very different conversation, right? But we have to remember when it comes to battles, it is similar toolkits, but how you integrate them are different. And there's different things looked at for a battle in general. The little kick, she ends up taking it, she swings it, she rotates a little body roll, and then from there, like the body roll was fine, but she made a muddled decision before establishing her next choice. So it's a readability thing where she completed a sentence, but the sentence she started a whole new paragraph instead of working with what she just finished up with. Those types of things, right? So she ends up tapping down. It's like a couple little misses. Can't touch this. So my vote would go to Aaliyah for this, but I wouldn't expect this one to be as clean of a win that I was seeing from Marley and Honey J. So that's, this is interesting. Kiyoka versus Rihada. So Kiyoka is one of the best hip-hop freestylers, period. She's very, very good, very well versed in multiple battle circuits. And she was on Street Dance China. Rihada, very, very, very established in the choreography world. So right now, you would notice that Rihada would be your disadvantaged person. That's not saying that she may or may not win. It depends on the round. But Kiyoka has a huge advantage because she comes from a battle world and she's done Street Dance China, where the format of having a camera in your face or being in a cameraed environment for a long time, she's got a lot of that experience. So I'm very curious about how this is going to go. Ooh, different pockets immediately. Come on, top rock with the setup. I love the interruption coming out of that. The trace wave, the switch off there. The kick, the lean back with the swim down. Notice all her choices have phrasing. Now, this one of her best runs, no. But we're not comparing to best runs. We're talking about what she's doing right now in the moment. Some of her choices are exploring very, very well. Okay, what's Rihada doing? Isis? I'm going to call it feels very much like this, which is something you want to avoid. Starty, count it up. So with this one, my vote would go to Kiyoka. Was this Kiyoka's best round? No. Okay, so in the case here, in battles, you want to avoid basically writing your own stuff, meaning you don't want it to come across like you just choreographed that, because that's not a battle. It's like, for battles, you remember, like if we're really wanting to showcase the street dance world and that side of it, we have to understand in battles that is frowned upon to just choreograph your own stuff unless it's a commando or a routine, which most of the time you will see in a 2v2 or 5v5 3v3. We will see those later. A 1v1, it's a who can handle a track organically with the exploration choices that go with it, right? In a 1v1, in a lot of cases. We noticed whenever I did the battle compilation, you saw logistics to that to yell, where it's like, hey, you phrased that already. Like, you didn't come up with that organically here. You know, and in a battle, that is something that is a component. So if I, as a judge or as somebody who's commentating, if I notice that, that can affect placement in a 1v1 case. So for this, my vote would go to Kiyoka for myself. Rihada also, I mean, she did some resets, but she was able to hide it, just like Aaliyah was able to hide her resets. So now we have a rock and bounce on this. Travel around using staging. Look at her footwork. Her footwork is diving into multiple pockets, and I touched on that earlier already, so I'll try not to repeat what I talked about. That right there, she goes hop, 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 da, 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 right? We switch off there. And then we end up doing just a kickball change, little top rocks coming out of it. And then she ended up strobing it through. The switch off on the legs, her wave through, bringing it in. Now she was able to phrase most of it pretty successfully. There's a couple times where it felt like she dropped something to hit another part of the music. So I don't know if that's just circumstance of the space. She had a little twist coming out of that. She ends up doing a little high kick. She leans it back. The travel through was really interesting. Yep. And she ends up doing these little ponies that you have this bring coming in, and then it's around here where I noticed it here. So she switches it through, hit, hit, hit. She preps it up, and then she pulls it through, and then, well, technically, if you look back, let's look here. So bringing it through from the first watch, it looked like she cut her flow off, but technically, I don't think she did. So she just ended up reshifting her weight. Her torso and legs kept the flow. Her arms switched up, right? Going to the floor, pretty decent phrasing with the slide is nice. Twist around, nice. And I liked her exploration coming out of that. Nothing crazy there. Oh, what was that? Hold on. What's that? Oh, it's just like a little, it felt like an uppercut. I thought she was saying biting, which Rihada hasn't done anything to promote biting. She moves away. Attack has happened. Rihada. So do you hear this? She goes to the kids like me. And she melts it down. She travels it through, separates one of the arms, the pull through. And then notice the footwork here. She ends up repeating this quite a few times. Did Kiyoka do that? Yes. But the difference is with Rihada, she set it up in the same way, in the same context, on the same part of the music. When it comes to Kiyoka, when she reestablished her pony, which is what we saw as a travel, it ended in a different pocket. Or whenever she was choosing it, she had a different polyrhythm and play on it. And so that's how I consider the difference between the two if you're going to choose a reset or you're going to choose to repeat something. She also does guns here with the head over, arms go up, the rebound. Then she ends up going out and then to the front, out and blow the travel around. And then she's still doing the same thing, but now she's just resetting with a different type of upper body. So it was technically, we would count 3 or 4 times she's doing this switch off, right? With the switch over. And it does feel like our torso is pretty restricted because of the rigidness of our textures, which is fine. It's a preference game on that. Yeah, the fright wrist, woo! So all of this here, her choices are hitting very predictably on our music. That will affect originality and creativity and your musicality in a battle context. Here, travel through, she hits whoa, little toe touches, she's doing the same thing again, but it's a different arm, the little flop, flop over, and then she's doing a trot across. Then we do a little Macarena, that's fine. Then the knees, this feel like we're kind of do a little walkout. Now that feels like a little commando moment. It's cute. This is boom, where you at now? Boom, with the bass, sets it across. It just feels very, very, very rigid in a way where it can come across like it's restricting her movement. I've seen Rihada's movement quality. I've studied her choreography. I've taken her classes, so I'm not unfamiliar to her. I'm not unfamiliar with most people here that we're going to see battle because I tried my best to. I mean, everybody did a signature movement thing, so I got to see them there. It feels like we're very restrictive in some of our choices because of the posture that we chose to operate in. So it feels very muddled in that sense, or does it feel clear and as readable? Switch off, travel through, the pickup there. So was this Kiyoka's best round? No, it wasn't. But I'm not saying Rihada did enough to beat Kiyoka's structure in how she battles. When you look at what this isn't a choreography challenge, it's a battle. A 1v1, and the skill set should be honored and respected in that. Now, will World Extreme One Fighter do that? No, they won't, because we don't have judges that can do that, right? Now, they can do like what I do. Like, I study and I've trained to be better at advocating and being a better, commentator and analyst in battle structures and battle context. I've battled before, and I help organize battles. So I'm not unfamiliar with the scene. And so I think just like we want people to respect the choreographic, like how a mega cruise to be judged, the same courtesy should be extended to battles. And so that's why for me, with the components of this feels very scripted, which is something you want to avoid in a battle, a 1v1. Also, when you look at the readability, it doesn't downplay Rihada's accomplishments, but if you look at the round in isolation with them just here in the space, neither of them did their best, but I'd say Kiyoka did better in the elements that I've been choosing to operate in this particular scope here. All right, Tisha versus Kaya. So we have different speed changes, which helps. Some of our phrasing feels like we have a lot of energy and we're trying to push through our phrases. Hold on, what did Marley say in the back? She said she would tie that, is what that, Marley. No, I understand what she's saying. That's very close. I would actually give the vote to Tisha. Not because she was full out the whole time. It goes back to what I look at. When it comes to type of track it is, I would say Kaya had, what, a dance hall track? Is this a dance hall? Is this a dance hall track? Anyway, so yeah, my vote would go to Tisha for this in the matchup. The travel forward, you had a lot of little percussion. We heard it recognized here. The swing over, 2 arms up, nice and full. Nothing crazy there. Her movements are pretty clear. And that right there, the patience on that choice, we appreciate. It's good. Showcases different, you want different levels, you want different dynamics in play, you want to showcase more vocabulary, but you want it to be introduced in a way that doesn't feel like I just copy and pasted it from a choreography, right? So these phrases, part of it, there's a chance some of her stuff she learns subconsciously through choreography or through drilling, which makes sense. A lot of people tend to do that. This is pretty hard to catch, but my gut tells me she's doing the ball heel with the heel tap transition across. And then her head, it's cool, full choice. So when it comes to the energy that's exuded from the track, she's meeting that, which helps. She's not getting overshadowed by the track. There are some choices she's making that can look like she's overshadowing the track, so she's neglecting musicality from that type of connection standpoint. The ISOs are fine. With the head, bring it over, bring it up, so she's popping off over here in the center. So even in those choices, she's not just doing it, you know, it looks like she's bleeding through the 8 count, just waiting for the next kind of phrase to happen. But in these types of choices here, it's at least going from side to side and how we're progressing our arms up. Nothing crazy there. The arm swing. And then the travel back is fine. So when it comes to usage of vocabulary, she has a 1-up on Kaya for. And then travel through, a little tap tap with a hit up there. Travel around, and then hit it back. There, here we go. So all of this here, the biggest note that I could give Kaya for this is her lack of connection to her movements and how they're phrased in sequences. It's a lot of words, a lot of vocab, but they're not phrased or set up for success in this. The accent across, even here, the travel forward, the pick up there. So even here, when she brings it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, pretty basic in how she goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, it's okay to bleed through something simple, but a lot of her choices are pretty, I mean, not ambidextrous on both sides, but she's hitting them on basic pockets, right? Like, we're not taking risks on our track. The risk is freestyling, right? 3, 4. We end up doing it 4 times. We're going even number through, pull out of it, and now hitting the words on that. She goes boom, so we hear that little wordplay moment. A travel through, so she hits it, but even on the third one, when she brings it around, she cuts it off to go to something else, right? And then she slides forward, and then she hits it over to the side, coming back up. We have a chest on this with the accent with the hips back. Then we bring it over, and then we travel it, well, we send the knees down and low with the hips. And then a bing, bing, bop. That was a syncopated moment. I appreciate that, which is cool. And it hits boom, boom, boom. So she's at least hitting tone for these choices as well. The travel across, and she went boom and accented out. So for both, I mean, Marley doing that. I mean, I think it's so funny that we can see stuff like that. I think, could they have gone tie for it? I mean, I know that they didn't, or we would have seen a tie for this, right? My vote personally would go to Tisha, and that would be my reasoning why, is because of, I mean, just because somebody has more vocabulary or movements pressed into their set or their round doesn't inherently mean that it's going to be the best round. Because if you look at Honey J and Marley didn't technically give more vocabulary than Honey J did, but how she used it to her music and how she phrased it is what worked to her advantage for my vote giving it to her. Remember, I am going to see the episode after this, so I'm going to see what all you guys probably know going into watching this. Y'all are probably like, Jess, you probably want to tell me so many things. And I'm going to try to avoid comments until I watch the episode so you guys can spoil it. But at least put spoiler at the top before you say it so I can be prepared. But anyway, yeah. So with this one, that's why my vote would go to Tisha, because I said with Honey J and Marley, she had more vocabulary, like movements done. It doesn't inherently mean that that's going to be the better one. It's how did you use them? Tisha took more risks on her music. She did staging, of course. She moved around the space, used levels, but also she created moments within the track to recognize that she was understanding her track. So that's an element. Okay, Kylie versus Kylie. Okay, those look like comfy couches, little chairs. Hey. Even if I go with me, yeah, I'm still on G. Even if I go with me, yeah, I'm still on G. What do I mean like that? When I come around, I care about Esther. When you want that cut that, don't let she get to it. It's like an app. This is a dope track. Why my baby been about? No stuff in the game. That's the price I pay for. Hey, want me dead, nigga, move and let it. Saved it. That was low-key fall crash, but she saved it. Okay, for this one, my vote would go to, Khalees right here? Because Kylie's on Royal. That's AG Squad, right? Okay, Khalees. Reason why is it's a very similar case to what we just watched from the previous round. Where, we're gonna watch it from the top. Guys, this is actually really fun to go back and actually look through the battles, because I don't do that, like I said, very often anymore. But we're doing it for the Fighter franchise. Give the people what they want. Anyway, so the setup there. Her accents are travel through. the points, I mean, she ends up taking and pointing, and it's fun. So even in her waiting, she's showcasing pretty interesting demeanor in her, you know, her looks and things. That kind of stuff can get measured. So it's not like you're not supposed to judge them when they're not dancing. No, you can, because it's something where if they're being disrespectful back to somebody, like even worse, that can be a line for being like, yo, that's not cool, right? So that her choices are fine. The travel around, it does look like Kylie is eating up a lot of time in her transitions, right? So she's doing the same thing for like a whole 8 count, which is meant for, sometimes you can use that for intros or for overall vibes, but for 30 seconds, not 30 seconds in, it's solid at least 15 seconds, so she's only done maybe 2 or 3 things to hype up. It feels like a very long, prolonged intro, which can work against you. I mentioned it with Yell during her second round against Logistics on the battle compilation with Red Bull. BC1, so those things can factor in. So touch on that. I like that ba da da da. That little sound is really cool. That little boom 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 hitting on the bass was a really nice choice. Part of me wishes that we had this a little bit earlier, right? Travel it through, the travel back, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. She hits in 5, 6, 7, 8. And she hits it with the arm swing, travel it through. So all of this was more competitive. If she was able to hold that kind of energy for the entirety of her set, I could swing it to Kylie. Then she ends up hitting it, but she's technically, I mean, she was pretty much waiting for that countdown to happen, but she hits it through. Traveling up, now she's reverted back to, like, her bookends are very simple in how she's choosing to present them. That feels like a really, really long intro, and then she had a really dope couple of 8 counts, right, of information, and then we reverted back to just hitting something that feels good for her on an 8 count. And, you know, vibing in class is fine, but in a battle against somebody, that can work against you. And she hits it through, so it was a fun little vibe. So her setup, come on now. Her travel through, so it looks like she's doing, I mean, not like a full bedrock. I mean, kind of. She's doing a little heel twist with the travel, with the ball of the foot, traveled across. So she hits it down and a down. She's like, with a listen, she hits it da-da-da, boom, through. So she was able to start pretty much immediately. You notice that whenever she was traveling it through, she was switching up her arms, right? Yeah, all of that there. She was polyrhythmicizing it. And then if both are polyrhythmic, who had more complexity in their polyrhythms? So because Khalees is showcasing, even though it's the same thing, showing more of a complexity in her choice of multitasking. Reset, hitting arm to the up, and then we toss them. And and she hits her kick, and then we end up tapping it with the elbow. We have a lot of guns because we're popping off on people. That's what it sounds like, right? She says, listen, and then she switches her mode. Her groove's a little different. She says, listen, and she hits it with the knees, with the tap. The arm swings, when the knee slides, she travels it up, they're like the shoot. So her phrases are readable. They're not getting cut off as much. That's what I've been seeing from other rounds. Even there, she chose to commit through her choice. Those are things I appreciate when you see in battles. Because a lot of times you'll see somebody, you know, I mean, they'll hit something and then they like want to hit something else and then they're just going to catch it and hit it instead and completely neglect what they chose to set up prior to that hit. And that's something I really have struggled with in my battle journey, which is why I'm really sensitive to it when I see it. So this is because I've been called out on it by a couple of my teachers. So I'm saying it's a real thing, and it's something that if he gets told enough, he gets sensitive to it. So that was a fall, but she recovered it or salvaged it, right? So she lost her balance. She's on the floor making the most of it. The song humming, it's like, whoa. Travel through. Notice she's not just keeping it for a full 8 count. She's going 1 and 2, and then she's grooving it out. And then she pulls it through. And this is really the only time that we're seeing her choices get a little muddled in the upper body, where she's ending up doing a little bit of stalling or glitching, but not enough to really be like that was an intentional choice. She's hitting it, trying to have different directions of abstract choices out of it, right? So I wouldn't say this is like the cleanest one in the world, but I would give Khalees my vote because of the things I had mentioned. If Kylie pulled what she did in those couple of 8 counts in that beginning and not waited so long to really up that intro for herself, then I think you could have possibly seen a different result for myself. All right, next is Harms and Hyojin Choi. Side note, I think her hair is really pretty. Alright, Hyojin Choi. Okay. 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 Okay, so initially I would probably go with Harms for this because if we're going off of, like I've mentioned many times before, what I'm looking at, musicality, integration, when you tone shift or whenever you mode shift, so what styles you're choosing to integrate, meaning more so, okay, if the tone of my track is changing, will my movement cater to that? And I feel like Harms did bring that more, and readability is a huge component. Harms was significantly more readable. Now, you can't have complexity and have readability at the same time. Neither brought an overly complex perspective, which made it competitive towards each other, but I believe that Harms had more readability and clarity and digestibility with musicality than Hyojin Choi. So let's talk about it. From the top. Couple things to note. Oh, as like a side note to something that we were noticing with Hyojin, I a lot of times when I would see somebody wait that long, it's in the second round. Mostly you kind of want to advise against it, but because of the format of the show, when in battles, you don't really, you don't battle to two different tracks most of the time. It's you both battle on the same track, and then sometimes there's 2 rounds, so you both battle on, 2 rounds on the same track together. So that's why both are allowed the same liberties of waiting to kind of settle into their track, even if they know it. So that's kind of the luck of the draw. If you know your track, it works for you. If you don't, then you figure out the predictable patterns within it quickly, right? So the setup for that, because of the intimacy of the type of track and the falsetto and that kind of vibe of it, she does a pretty good job on setting into that. Nothing crazy there. The travel across, she ends up switching her pockets where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So she's going into pocket 2, then into a pocket 3, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4 every time on that. She hits it high, mid, low, recognizing the basses. Then she sends it back. Nice risk. My note is whenever you go back and you do choose to come back up, you want it to be at the same level of ease going down as it is to get back up. You don't want one to look more labor than the other, because then it looks like, oh, we got lucky with lifting that, and we're too busy thinking about the execution of the move versus seeing how it fits in your track. So that's my note there. So nice and full. She is catering more in that second position, like with her legs separated a lot in this, using a deep squat and showcasing a lot of her perspective. She's hitting on predictable elements of the track, but she is taking some risk with the usage of her hinges. And her fullness is commendable for sure, because we have more percussion in play. Having more fullness helps with that. The accent up and around into a guada guada. Now we couldn't really see the guada guada clearly, so I couldn't really tell you on the execution of it. Then they travel around, then bring it up, a little travel through, little pas de bourrées. Yeah, we're still catering in that squatted position, which would be my note. That can be one indicator, and a lot of times when you're not used to being able to phrase and explore, you go to what's comfortable to you, and that would be something that would be deemed comfortable to Harms. Now, did what she do was enough? Let's see. The travel through, she's repeating about 4 times. All right. With Hyojin Choi, she's waiting for it. You have some people like count in. She could have technically jumped into it at that point. Whenever you hear 5, 6, 7, 8, there's going to be something dropped in some component maybe. But she waited, she heard it, now she's going. And 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, right? So nothing really inherently crazy. A pretty strong start. The turnaround of it, nothing is, what is it? How she's going about her choices. She's throwing arms where it's more of an accent point. I've just noticed it quite often with how she was doing it. The arms are there as a sense of fullness, not a sense of direction or clarity, right? So, and that can work against you, where you have someone that has more legibility in their movement over somebody who does not. Who will you pick? I will be picking the one who has more legible perspective involved in it. With the kick over it, she said, come on, little confidence taunt. Pushes through. So she's doing a lot of like poking and prying, which eats up your time. And she also ate up time in the intro. So that could be something you want to advise against. So she's doing kind of answering what Harms did with a lot of these pops. Now, does she hit to the degree of fullness? No. The type of track doesn't also have those types of timbres to justify that in the way that the timbres and tonal colors of Harm's track did. And so that's the risk you take when you answer on a different track, are those things. And if you're choosing to answer or do a gimmick like this, you have to square up. I said this exact thing with Aiki, and I think that worked against her for me with my vote. If you're going to choose to pull this on Royal Family, it's a signature move. I'm not saying that they own it, but they're noted for it. Your movement quality has to stand significantly higher. Like, this is a straight up diss. And unfortunately it doesn't. She takes it and it looks like she eats it with these fingers. So this is interesting. Normally I see this kind of choice, right? Or I see it twinkle in. I haven't really seen it ingest before. So that was interesting. Into a butterfly, very quick butterfly. I kind of felt like she took that out of Aiki's book, this whole little vibe here, right? Hitting it around, which can help with their overall synergy. I think that's something that with Bums Up that I would definitely like to see more success rate for them at, is their synergy as a group. They all are leaders of their own respective teams, but I want them to be able to hold it down as a group, as one, right? So they hit it through. This type of track is really difficult to provide depth to because the track doesn't provide a lot of depth. So if you're just meeting the track, your movement qualities, your movement and your choices are not going to have depth to them. And so that's the downside of the song choice too for this. Whether or not she picked it, I don't know. The travel around, all of this here kind of feels like we're stalling. It really does feel like we're throwing different concepts and ideas into the space, but we're not holding on to any of them. And so it doesn't feel readable or clear. And so the hit, now we have another sound that we're recognizing. And the reason why it feels that way is because if your movement doesn't tie into your music, that it's being neglectful and you're neglecting musicality, which will affect your creativity and your originality, your vocabulary, and your overall performance and presence. Because musicality, the relationship with your music is vital to battling, dancing. You dance with music. Most of the time you dance with music, or music is made from you, right, percussively. So that's why if we're having a lull moment where it doesn't feel like we're connected to our music and our movement is just kind of being tossed in the wind, it can unfortunately work against you. So that's why my vote falls into that. So at the end, she has just a little moment. A lot of her choices didn't land into hitting the essence of the track as effectively as what we were noticing from Harms. So that's why my vote would go to Harms for this. Yeah.
Oh, hi there. Welcome to our Street Woman Fighter intermission, talking to you about my Mauno microphone. It is a PD300X. They sent this to me way back a couple months ago before I even moved in this space, and they said, hey, put it through the ringer. Tell us what you think. And so far it's doing pretty good. I'm talking really quiet because this is really close to my face, but if you've noticed, you don't see this on my screen, and that's what I like about it, because I can talk freely with my hands and not feel confined to a microphone. So I want to let you know, if you're like, Jess, I want to sound cool in my meetings talking about dance too, then get yourself one of these bad boys. Link will be in the description. Back to our regular viewing.
Gabby versus Danica, Battle of the Heels. interesting for this. Okay. So I feel like Gabby pulled what she pulled in the first season, where she went somewhere, she found a loophole for entertainment, which is what makes her as marketable of a person from the franchise as she is because she finds those types of choices. Now, did that help her or hinder her? In this world here, I don't know, I couldn't tell you, but here, it's all in if you choose to go about it. How are you going to utilize your time? Let's see. From the top. This is It's Raining Men. So she set it up. She's ready. Now, it also kind of low-key feels like that she was waiting, and then she immediately went into choreography. Now, is she doing choreo? I don't know. I know she's huge. She has a lot of choreography experience, especially with diving into the whacking realm of things. So could that be scripted? Maybe. It's Raining Men, so she's showcasing a lot of the performance side of her choices. She showcases whacking, and it goes that hallelujah. So she's going for more of a storytelling perspective out of it. Raining Men. So when it comes to her overheads and her choices, I don't mind it in if she's taking it and choosing to articulate it in the way that she is. She ends up doing a dip. My question is, hold on. It does feel like she low-key slipped, right? Yep, it Raining Men. And she hits it, well, pa! Swinging it through. And the arms, little rotation. She takes it. Boom. Pushes it out of the way. And then she has her moment here. If she was freaking bodying, like, that's always a risk to do that. Like, it can ruin your flow, or it can ruin the flow of what you've established. Maybe, but all this, it's full. Oh, that's fun. Like, that's fun. And then she takes it around. She ends up doing that about 4 times. Walking it through. Trotting around. Arms around. Into a split. Now, the judges will be able to see that that's not a complete split. It was about similar to what we saw here. Accent, is it entertaining? Absolutely. Is it captivating? Yes. It makes you like, where is she going to go, right? Now, if we're looking at the type of track, like she hits the "It's a Rain," like the angstiness of the track. It worked well here. For Danica, walk through. Firstly, when it comes to, like, I told you guys, her choreography style is heels. You see it in choreography. Very rarely will you see this in a battle. You don't have heels battles really that much at all. If you see people in heels, they're going to be doing Vogue. They're going to be doing whacking, are going to be those primary foundations. So I was very intrigued on how this was going to go, right? The lean back, so this is just listen. The width, that, very strong start. She brought it over, the turn. Now the question is, does she have this choreographed or not? I could not tell you, which is actually pretty nice. But could it also be because I'm not saturated in a battle circuit that involves heel-based techniques that you see in heel-based choreography? So it's hard for me to tell a choreograph from a truly freestyle perspective. Yes. And that's why it's a little different here than seeing something that's more on the scripted side based on the foundation of, let's say, hip-hop or popping, right? Or breaking. So the little trace down the side, and then we have our torso with the flick of the feet, the turn out of it. Very stable in her choices. She's doing high-risk choices. With the lean back, the melt-throughs, the hit. And honestly, for somebody who doesn't battle, very impressed by this, by her phrasing, because it's clear and it has complexity and risk-taking, and it matches her music very well. That get it. So she ends up doing this again, but she's not upside down this time. And then she's doing it to the get it. And then she does a little ball change. The other side, she comes up with the leg, and she accents it around with taking it, rotating it all the way through. And then she transitions it across different groups. Look, they're living their best life over here. Can I just tell you, I am so thankful that Motive is here and this is our camera shot, because I get to see other Americans vibe out. I'm an American, and so you guys see how I come across when I look at a lot of street dance stuff. This is so fun, though. This is so fun because they respond so the same as I do in a lot of cases. So they hit it with some hands. So now, I can see either take it for different reasons. If it was just going off of my preference on how I've been catering things, my vote would go to Danica. Can I see Gabby take it? Possibly. Because it's World of Street Woman Fighter, right? Do I agree with it? I think this was close. This was pretty close. To a certain degree, I think, because you're looking at, it's the same thing as old way, new way whacking when you look at those, because old way, both are valid. Old way whacking, it has a lot of pose storytelling is such a huge component in it, right? And then with the new way, a lot of times it's very technically sound. So having the technique, having the speed, those types of things. And so that's what I'm kind of low-key expecting between Lip J and Ibuki. We've already kind of tackled that, and I touched on that exact point there. So there's going to be more that I'm probably going to have to study up on to be better steward in diving into the nuances. But here, this type of battle you wouldn't normally see in a battle circuit ever, right? Unless it's in all styles. So, which is what we're dealing with here, but you would get the same song and so many other logistics. But my point, though, is my vote would go to Danica based on the phrasing that she brought and how captivating it was. She didn't really repeat. I'd say maybe once or twice, but the actual transitions within them were very smooth. And the usage of heels, both of them did fine. I would say, I would call that dip that Gabby did a crash, potentially, because of how she landed in it. But it could just be a preference of how the position was, maybe. I don't know. But that's why my vote would go to Danica. But it wouldn't surprise me 100% if Gabby took it because of what I just touched on, because she found a loophole to maintain captivation in storytelling through her choices. But if you're going for complexity and risk-taking, I would reward Danica for that. Okay. Oh, hold up. What's this? I just watched this. Gabby and Danica. It's the same thing? Did it just click the same thing again? No, okay. At the same time. Yeah, she's like, go away. It can't be dangerous. Okay. For this, my vote would go to Danica. There are judges out there. I'm not saying these judges would say this. There have been people at like conventions. They're like, go to the front so we can notice you. That's how you show your confidence. Respectfully, I come from the lens on you don't have to be going to the front to be the best in the space. And I feel like when it comes to how we work with what we have, Danica freaking bodied this. Lord. So captivating. And look, she's giving Aaliyah energy, everyone. Oh, we love it. So we have the tension. We got Pussycat Dolls. I feel like Pussycat Dolls has been showing up so much in my life. Why? I don't know. So we have one of Gabby's hitting more of the percussion, and then you have Danica hitting more of the. Now the question is, who's showcasing more variety of vocabulary? So she hits about. So it's like Danica doesn't really hit anything 4 times in a row the way Gabby does. So when it comes to deviating with the power of 3s, psychologically Danica is going to come across more complex because she's not riding through a typical time signature 4/4 phrase like Gabby is. The tension, the power, the core. Honestly, I would, if I was in the world of heels and I had any skin in the game, like if I was Aaliyah, I'd be hiring Danica after the show for something if she needed a dancer, because Danica is so high level at what she's showing here in her core. Yeah, right there. The usage, like the fullness of her legato, right? Yeah, her phrasing is so clear and her exploration is very impressive. So impressive. And then with Gabby, her choices, she's hitting her choices. But it just comes down to, there's not really familiarity, but I'm saying there's just a saturation of repeats, which can work in some lanes, but if you're against somebody that is phrasing the way that Danica is, that can work against you, right? The lift, like that was crisp, and it hit a sound. Yeah, the lift up. You see my two teams back here eating at Danica, like, no, 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 bop, bop, bop. The extension. For me, I would be like AG Squad being like, yo, get out of the way, because if you're in heels, it hurts if you get stepped on. You can hurt yourself way more. Like, just like in breaking, you don't want breakers to be dancing really close together like that. This isn't whacking, right? Heels, we got a shoe liability coming in right here. Yeah, so she's hitting more on the wordplay. That little mama, travel through, and then you have Gabby. She's hitting through. Aaliyah's like, come sit on me. And then she's having her fun finish. So notice that they're looking over here and not looking at this here, which I get, you know. And she hits it around, and then she's resting there. Wow. Bless it all. Bless it all. So my vote would have secured to Danica. And like I said, I've tried to avoid tying too, but when we take it to a tie, does that make sense? I mean, out of them all, they both carried different perspectives on their tracks, and they've held their own on their own tracks. That go into a tie makes sense to this. But yeah, my vote would have gone to Danica because of her choices on the track and the maturity and artistry that came with it. That is a value to me when I look at these types of things. Okay, Ibuki and Lip J. I gotta check. I think I have one more. Yeah, so I have two more. Looks like they went to a tie. Kind of felt like they were gonna tie it anyway. That's kind of the downside. It really honestly feels like there's certain matchups that are gonna happen in a show, and you just know that they're just gonna tie it because part of it's gonna be the entertainment value of a tie, which, if you've watched my world, the worst calls ever made on the Fighter franchise, one of them was from the Streetman Fighter. They tied it because it was, you know, such a thing. I would say if you're going to choose to tie it of entertainment, do it now. Don't be doing it at an elimination battle, because that mess can piss a lot of people off quickly. For me, to maintain the integrity of like the type of battle it is, tying for entertainment is such not the right move. So I don't know if they were told you're going to have to tie this. Like, we have no idea what production tells these judges. So I have to keep that in mind too when it comes to who wins and who loses. A lot of times it may not even be the judge's call on how they have to vote for the show. It's a show for drama and entertainment, which sucks when street dance gets to be the butt of that. You know, there's pros and cons to it. Anyway, here we go. They ended up showing this in the trailer, but it's an uncut version. That's why I felt familiar. Do I get to see Lip J's response? Yes. That's her fingerprint choosing to express the track. All right, what's Lip J doing? I think she was used to doing the same track too. During battles like this, I really wish it was the same track. Oh. Okay. Look, this is what we love. Okay. I mean, there's no point in saying who I would have picked for that because they do a rematch. I need to see them dance to the same track anyway. That's where they got the trailer intro from. what's funny is I think like because we're so privileged to get incredible whacking battles in our lives together. For this, it didn't shock me at all that they stopped at the same time because I've seen that so many times when we see them dance like just really high quality whackers dance together and they know their track. Da 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 da. Just being frozen. It makes everybody go crazy, and that's exactly how I felt whenever I watched the first season of Street Woman Fighter, but we've got a lot of circuits under our belt now, and so them doing this is great. I appreciate even the dynamics on the tail end of it. Can I see Ibuki take this? Possibly, because of her risk-taking and her level utilization. Because if you're going off of, okay, they both are high level, they're showcasing complexity, their difficulty and vocabulary match this track beautifully, we love, right? Both have incredible confidence in how they present themselves. We look at other components. Okay, who expressed more risk-taking on, let's say, levels? I would say Ibuki did. When it comes to the traveling across, they both did that, right? They both went to judges for this, right? That was so funny. It's like Ibuki was going in and Lip J's like, I'm getting there first. So fun. I mean, Aaliyah, she's such a vibe. I love her as a reactor in the show, but she's a judge. And so that's the really hard thing for me is that I love that we have people that really are like vibing well with what they're watching. But it gets hard to, you know, make a sound decision when you're so emotionally invested, when you're going off of a criteria that shouldn't have your emotions be the determining factor of your vote, right? So that's why... Yeah, she said, keep going. The tension is fine. When it comes to the actual holds and the storytelling elements, Lip J has that there. The risk-taking Ibuki has. Yeah, so in my humble opinion, I don't think it matters who wins this one because part of me is like the people who would determine who would win are the ones that are against each other right now. There is not really many people in the room that could make a call, that should have been able to make this call. Does that make sense? Now, for me, I know some of you are like, well, Jess, you know, we all have, you know, eyes and we can all make our own choices for different reasons. And that's fine. And they're there because they're there to be just a perspective, an outside perspective of a participant, which is fine, right? And then both Ibuki and Lip J have the camera in your face experience on shows. Of Ibuki is primarily on Street Dance China, and then you got Lip J teetering, dabbling a little bit in SDC. But also, she was in the first season of Street Woman Fighter, and she's been a mentor in a mentor position for Boys Planet. Like, I got to see her there, and I know she's been in other things. So, I mean, let me go back. Let me go back to this battle. Let's talk about it. Part of me wishes, like, if you notice with Lip J, she was ready to go for the track, and I think part of it's because that's how it always is that you play a song, when your opponent goes, you respond. And that's, in my humble opinion, it also is what makes it hard to judge these types of battles because you have a different track with different musicality to justify per participant. And so it's not going to be okay based on this framework of here's the track and here's all your polyrhythmic type of choices you can make on this track. Who did it better? It's completely different scopes to operate in. And so it's really hard to even make a call even here because they both justify their tracks justly because of what they were given and how they chose to show it, which is why it's hard for me to even say who would win because the format itself is not something that you would determine a winner from a normal whacking circuit, right? And the reason why I feel more that way here than I did with all the other matchups is simply because it is a whacker versus a whacker here. It's not somebody who primarily does choreography against someone primarily who does choreography. It's not the same as Gabby and Danica. They're both people who primarily dabble in the choreography realm. These girls are battlers in whacking, right? They are top tier whackers in the world. So this is why I'm like, it's kind of... I don't think that's the best call for me to even say who I think would take it. I can see Ibuki take it because of her risk-taking and complex choices within that tiebreaker and how she chose to jump to the ground. And then with Lip J, through her patience and her dynamic selections and storytelling. Both can take a win depending on who looked at them at what time, right? So, oh man, this is so interesting, and I am really passionate about seeing street dance and the beauty and the art of it, and I really really wish Mnet stewarded it better because they have such high caliber people, regardless of their performances in battles. I'm talking to everybody. There's high levels that we get to appreciate here. People get to see them freaking body for what they do best, which is battle. But then there's going to be people that we see here that may have struggled in battles, but we get to see them truly shine in choreography missions. And that's what I really like about the show. But part of me is really I was just so wishful from the first time I ever watched this franchise that we created a more appropriate system to where we can see what the true street dance scene is and allow this to be a really cool educational experience. Yeah, you can add drama and entertainment into it, sure. But there is, there is opportunity here to be able to be like, okay, whacking, this is what we're touching on. And maybe they will. I don't know what they did in the episode. I haven't seen it yet. But that's just what my heart feels, is that I really wish we were stewarding this opportunity a little bit more appropriately, because you have such high caliber people here. It's not like they haven't done it before. Stage Fighter is the only example that I can give to Mnet actually caring about these performers and who they got to judge it. I've never seen a panel like that on an Mnet show ever. So that's what I was really hoping for. I was like, maybe Mnet got it right. I mean, Mike and Aaliyah and JYP, they're fine. In choreography missions, I can see all of them shine on the class rank mission for sure, because of the concept shoot format that a lot of them have experience in. But battles, it's just unfortunate because people going home as a result of their vote, that's tough personally. So I am so looking forward to y'all's perspective. Please keep it respectful to each other as well as to me. If you don't agree with me, please just extend me grace. Remember, my main scope is choreography, but I also have a lot of experience in the battle realm in terms of analysis, training to be a better advocate for street dance and how it's being measured in the regular circuit. What are some things that get connected, disconnected in the regular battle circuit? What are the differences here? And we're all here at the end of the day for a really great time celebrating the art of dance. So looking forward to hearing from y'all. You know me, I know you. I'm Jess, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.